Welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Africa We Deserve Taking Power Over Our Lives videocast. This is an opportunity. This videocast is made for Black people, African people across the diaspora, across the globe, and for those who are our lovers of Africa, who are committed to the upliftment of humanity, to come together, to get inspired by each other, to learn to invest in each other, and to take the time to figure out your inventions and share them to the world, share your ideas. Today's show is actually a pitch session. We are in a position today on the heels of the U.S. Biden Africa Leader Summit coming up next week. This event is one of the International Institute and Pitch World Fast online events, talking about and showcasing African solutions to the world. We know that Africa as a whole is a growing global partner. There are solutions that people hold that are doing business in Africa, that are doing business transcontinentally, is doing business bicontinentally across the oceans, from the Atlantic Ocean to the coast of Africa. They're really having solutions. They have solutions to problems and challenges. And we want to take the time to showcase individuals who might need a little bit of help in their business. They're fundraising, they have some dollars down, they have some resources, or they're looking for partners for expansions, or they're looking for countries to enter into to showcase their solutions, their products, their services, in order to bring for social good, for upliftment, social economic development. So sit back, and we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves. They'll be coming on. They'll talk about their goods, their services, where they are, what they're doing. And we hope that you actually do what we do best: connect. If you know somebody who knows somebody, send this video along, subscribe to the channel, talk about the person that you're seeing, get involved and get engaged, and help to make the Africa that we deserve. Our first person that we have on here is Adesina. Adesina, would you please come to the screen? Thank you. Welcome to the studio. And explain who you are and talk a bit about your solution that you see that can actually help to improve and change the continent.
Thank you very much.
So, Adesina, who are you? What's your name? Where do you live? And what solution are you going to present on before you bring up your slide deck? Talk to people first. Get comfortable. Let people know who you are.
Okay. So I'm actually the CEO and founder at TradeLender, and I have a background in finance. I studied accounting, graduated with honors. And at the same time, I had the privilege to work with various financial institutions, inclusive of Stanbic IBTC, both the asset management arm and also the bank. While at the asset management, I was opportune to lead various innovations, which today, positions it to be one of the leaders across the wealth management arm, in Nigeria and across Africa. And also while at the bank, I kind of championed various payments and collections innovations, to improve the lives of small businesses so that way they can actually increase their turnover. And I'm actually actively in this space today, still supporting these MSMEs. Some of the things that drives me, or what really drives me in quotes, is the fact that I grew up with a mom who actually, supported the home front, through the small business, that she operated. And I understand the importance that this small business, have, on the impact of people. A lot of people still live below $2 a day. There's the high rate of poverty. There's a lot of economic instability. And all we can do is to support these small businesses to be able to strive and also support their family. Today, they account for 84% of the jobs that are created across Africa. So what can we do to support them? Yeah.
Wow, that's small businesses are really the driving force for economic opportunity, vitality across and you are providing some solutions that you got from your mom. I just want to take a moment and just say, if you know Trevor Noah, he signed off of his daily show. And just from your conversation here with me today, he really took a moment to thank the women in his life, particularly the Black women in his life that showed him the way, that worked hard every day, that they couldn't make mistakes, that they had to figure things out because they had people depending upon them. And here too, I hear another strong man saying, I give honor to my mom, this woman who was doing amazing work.
Sure, sure. There's a quote that actually speaks to the fact that women have the ability to multiply, and they actually, when you empower a woman, you're actually empowering a nation. I strongly believe in that quote, and I strongly believe that it's not just a quote; it's something that we see in reality. Women have the ability to be able to grow rapidly. When they are given an opportunity.
Wonderful. Now, if I missed it, please tell the audience again, which nation, which African nation do you come from?
So I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria is actually in the West African region of Africa. Yeah.
Okay. And your solution, is it uh, a solution across Africa, or your market is focused right now on which country?
So today, our primary market is actually Nigeria, but we've carried out various pilots, tests, across Ghana, Kenya, and a few others.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, is there anything for the listening audience that you want them to know right now before we go into your presentation? Anything that's burning that you have to say?
Well, I would say that, small business owners are actually the live stream. They're actually the future. And I was speaking yesterday to an audience, and I said that those who pay attention to, those that are emerging, would actually be the ones, to be the market leaders within the next 10 years. And that is what we are doing. We're focusing on those that people are not focusing on, the underserved, the underbanked, and
Right.
helping them to be able to transition from being underbanked, underserved to being, served. And within the next 5 to 10 years, they would actually be the ones, at the forefront of the economy, because now we've helped them to transition, and it will be, our solution that would actually be piloting that. So let's not focus on what have existed, but let's focus on what can be the next future today. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, your president is going to be here for the U.S. Africa Leader Summit. And if you had one message that you could get, if you could be his advisor for one moment of time, you had a message to deliver about let's build together. This is the focus of today's conversation. Let's build together African solutions that empower the world. What would that one comment be so he could understand how to build together?
So coincidentally, we just passed the Startup Act here in Nigeria, and he just signed that few weeks ago. So for me, I would say for us to implement to the letter, the act, because that act actually, has the potential to put Africa and Nigeria specifically, at the forefront of actually innovating and actually economic growth and development.
Fantastic. So you're about to go present. I asked everyone who was presenting today to stay in studio, watch your fellow presenters, give them support. When we're finished studio, we'll sign off from being live, but it's a time also you might learn something from a fellow presenter, or you might make a new relationship, partnership, or collaboration. You never know. So with no further ado, you have your slide deck ready?
Sure, I do.
Sure you do. I bet you do. So I'm going to let you have the screen there, and I'm removing myself, but I am here in studio. Anytime that you need something, I'm here. Show floor.
All right. Thank you very much. As stated earlier, a lot of people still live below the $2, daily opportunity. And this is the fact that we are not empowering enough women. Women are actually those, across Africa that, provide and augment, the family income. And they actually currently account for over 84% of the jobs, that we have across Africa. The reason why most of these people are not being able to get quick access to credit to be able to grow and scale their businesses is the fact that they are not so digitally literate, and they also lack, adequate data to be able to provide to the traditional banks. According to the IFC, this number actually is actually valued at over 29 billion US dollars, and over 18 million MSMEs today across Nigeria are excluded, from financial services. Today, we've been able to build a solution that helps to integrate the likes of Madam Justina, who also represents and reminds me of my mom, to be able to access timely credit within 6 hours, meaning that if they request today, within 6 hours, they're able to get credit. This is 4 times faster than what the current alternatives have to offer, which some of the traditional banks tend to give them within 24 hours to even weeks before they get the funds. We've gone a step further to partner and integrate, with other solution providers to offer other value-added services such as micro savings and insurance, so that they can protect those that they love and the things that they love. Today, we are actually focusing on, those within the supply value chain of the fast consumer moving products, agri and agro commodities, the oil and gas, and also general merchandise. We're providing credit in form of working capital finance, local purchase invoices, and also discounting invoices for the medium scale enterprises. And our strategy has been simple. We partner today with structured markets because of the digital literacy gap of these small businesses. We're able to partner with their structured market, their leaders and associations, and they were able to use that to be able to successfully acquire them. And then on successful funding, they are able to go for to refer others to us. And on every funds that we disburse out, we actually charge a 5% monthly interest on that. To put a context to the 5% interest, this is very competitive and one of the lowest in the market. Some sharks today charge as high as 30% on a monthly basis, meaning that our rate is very competitive and also very fair to the growth of their businesses. On a macro level, this is a $5 trillion opportunity market. And according to the IFC, Nigeria, our immediate market, actually accounts for over 29 billion US dollars. What we've done so far is to support, in disbursing a total value of over 2 million US dollars. And because of our technology that we've built and our approach, we've been able to, achieve less than 1% in terms of non-performing. Now, just to put context to this, non-performing is usually high in cases whereby people charge ridiculously high rates, and also when the funds do not get to these MSMEs timely. There is the risk of diversion, but in our case, because of the approach and also our technology, we've been able to keep it less than 1%, and we've generated revenue with a missed opportunity still on a month-on-month, of over $1 million, meaning that the demand is there. We just need to be able to accelerate our growth and our loan book so that we can service more people. In terms of the background of the team, I used to work with Stanbic IBTC. I have a finance background. My other co-founder, Shino Arugunda, they also worked with UBA, which is also a financial service, a bank, and wrote credit policies across 20 African countries, meaning that we're not just, coming with experience, but we're also coming with a background, which comes with supporting these MSMEs. Our CTO also has been instrumental towards supporting MSMEs, especially those within the rural area, to use technology to support them, working with state governments across Nigeria. And today, he built the first MVP that we used, and that was live within 8 weeks of deployment. We also have been able to attract, a set of quality advisors from Mr. Ehisu Zinabo, who is the Chief Investment Officer for Shell, and also a former colleague while I was at Stanbic IBTC. We also have Mr. Tommy Davis, who is actually the head of Lagos Indian Network, and also currently the Chief Investment Officer for GreenTech. In terms of the competitive landscape, we actually have been able to differentiate ourselves in terms of approach, in terms of our technology, and also our proprietary credit framework, and also the time which we actually are able to disburse to these customers. In terms of what the future looks like, our goal is to end this year with round closure, and then accelerate our growth to be able to do $10 million in monthly disbursement and support for these small businesses, which will allow us the ability to be able to grow our revenues to over $6.4 million between Q4 2023 entering into 2024. Today we're raising $1 million, which will enable us to be able to scale and also improve on our technology and also our debt pipeline. But at the same time, we've been able to successfully attract $300,000 US, and we have a gap of $700,000 US, which is still waiting to be closed up. We're inviting you to join us on this journey so that we can support the likes of WET. As you can see on the picture on the left hand side, she's representing those within the fast consumer moving products. You have Gainer, who is actually representing those within the agri and agro commodity. You have Mike, who is representing those within oil and gas, and you have Obina, who is representing those within the general merchandise. Just to put context to this, Obina has been able to grow his store from just one store to having 3 outlets since he discovered TradeLender. Mike has been able to grow his capacity from just 1 gas plant outlet to actually 2. And Gainer Ilya has been able to service over 23,000 farmers with input fertilizers since he discovered us, with volume actually growing to over $200,000 US. So we have a lot of success stories, and we're inviting you to join us on this journey as we build the future of Africa that we desire. Thank you.
I'm back. I'm here. That was wonderful. How do you feel?
Good. Thank you.
Fantastic. You're still live. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your dream, your hard work. You are what is right with Africa. And so I want to thank you for desiring to be born in your family. Thank your family for having you. I'm looking forward to seeing the fruit of your production, to be invited to Nigeria when all is well, so you can showcase how this is working. Thank you for coming. Stay here in studio. There's other people that are coming on. We have Duncan Cameron is next, Dr. Lawrence Schaefer, and then Queen's Hayesworth is coming on. So you don't want to miss who is going to present next. So I'm just going to take you from screen and say we are here having this conversation on the heels of the U.S. Biden Harris Africa Leaders Summit, which will be happening December 13th through 15th in Washington, D.C. This is one online event that the International Institute of Family Development, along with Pitch World Fast, Shiraz Bensame from Algeria, are putting on to really showcase and highlight the opportunities that we have before us, that Africans have solutions to the world and we need to build together. So part of the events that will be happening in Washington, D.C. will highlight just that, mutual cooperation and respect. And this is the opportunity that we're bringing everyday, ordinary people, both Africans and those who love Africa and have a long history with supporting Africa's development, to the forefront, to this conversation, to this space, to help build the Africa we deserve. And that is one of social economic development, wherein with that across Africa, 1 million jobs can be established by the year 2030. It's a mighty feat, but it is possible. So I'm bringing to the screen now our next presenter, Duncan Cameron. Thank you for coming on, and let's hear about who you are and what you do and where you're from.
Well, to start off with, I have 8 daughters, so I know I'm well trained. And yes, you're right. Mothers are the ones that you learn at their knee growing up. Fathers are the ones that have their sons respect their mothers. And Cameron Group International has a company called Cameron Global Africa that is all African ladies that are the shareholders of it. And my first journey to Africa was in a church in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan at 5 years of age. My mother gave me a quarter to put in the missionary plate for the missionaries in Ghana. Fast forward to 8 years of age, I became a pen pal with a boy and a girl in that country. And then in 1976, I joined Rotary. And my job at Rotary was to raise money to buy polio vaccine, to give the polio vaccine out. 37 years ago, I touched down in Ghana to distribute the polio vaccine with my Rotary Club out of Victoria, British Columbia. And we are always raising money, golf tournaments, we're having fashion shows and that there to send money over to Rotary clubs in Africa to build an orphanage or so forth. And it's always been, when I came there, it's always been my desire to create some activities and projects that could generate revenue. And so today I would like to talk to you about Zeroville, which is a revenue generating project.
You will. Before
yes.
you go into Zeroville,
yes,
I have to tell the listening audience, just for purposes, I know personally and love this man, Duncan Cameron.
Yes.
We've traveled together. We were in Nigeria together, most recently helping to build a hospital where this man became a chief in the village. And he has done so much work across the continent over his lifespan. So I have so much respect for him and his family and his values. So I have to put that out there first. We're going to pull up your slides.
Okay. Yes. Well, and Nigeria was the first time there, and it was such an enjoyable trip that I decided to go to Atlanta, Georgia, too, to be homeschooled by 2 beautiful African ladies that wouldn't let me out of their sight and guarded me. And thank you very much for that, Viola.
Thank you very much. You are a wise human being with a generous heart. And that is what is needed in order to build the Africa we deserve. I want the listening audience to know that Zeroville is an opportunity that you should not pass up. It is a solution because I know this project very well. It is a solution that brings about all of the abilities to answer the national development plans for many African nations, particularly ones who are looking for energy, water, education, healthcare, housing. So I'm going to put the slide deck up and let the master himself, Mr. Cameron, go through this. And again, do not miss this opportunity for partnership. It is one that you will want to be in relation.
Thanks, Viola. Just a little bit of a preamble there. Zeroville is a self-contained village of the 5th industrial generation or revolution, and it means zero carbon environment in an agrarian rural village. 50% of the sub-African households are without electricity and 40% without clean drinking water. Some of them get their water from wells. Wells dry up in such situations, are deepened and water pumps used. And the use of water pumps added to another problem contributing to electricity shortages. So a group of us sat down and tried to figure out how we could solve some of these problems and not have to go and ask for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to implement them. And as we well know, electricity for our children to be able to study at night and to move around and so forth like this is very, very important. And so we come up with a solar-powered zero village, creating water, process water, produce organic food for e-commerce. Customers, both local and international villages, have clean water, sufficient electricity, and grow organic food under the Zeroville label. And transportation of electric vehicles and that to take your product to market. And the showcased for Africans and foreigners is a model for the study in humanity, sustainability, and technology, as well as in business. I'm just reading this off of the slide presentation. What I would like to go and do is that in Ghana, I've been there many times, in cooperation with the Rotary clubs and the Lions clubs of that country, we're going to build eventually 1,270 of these villages. And when you were talking about Madam Justina and the illegal gold miners and so forth in Ghana, we have a solution for that there for the people in the small villages and that there. We have a process that can mine and process gold without using any chemicals at all. And we've already been in conversation with the government of Ghana about that with one of my other partners. The Zeroville is, we're going to give highly efficient monocrystalline PV panels to inverters that in turn is connected to battery energy storage. The inverter then delivers power to households, water pumps, spring water, battery charging, changing, and lighting. Once the microgrid is installed, maintenance is the only cost. Nature in the form of sunlight gives the community power for work, power for leisure, and power for lighting. Solar microgrid transforms Zerovilles into an advanced region of high income. The outdoor lighting uses low power LED lights and has its own solar panels. The timer is automatically set to turn on the lights when it gets dark and turns them off at sunrise. A lithium ion battery is used to store energy during the day when the light is not in use. Down to spring water is a device that gives Zeroville clean water. The water is used for drinking, for crops, for cooking, and for washing. And talking about cooking, we're going to be providing an electric stove. And Godwin, a good friend of mine that's at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, where I live, is coming up with a refrigerator that will have a cartridge that we can provide a refrigerator for all of the village homes. And then every week there will be a cartridge, an energy cartridge that will be exchanged so that we can take that one back and recharge it. And give mothers some extra time instead of going out gathering fuel. She can have it at this flick of a switch. And one of the biggest problems I understand in Africa and warm countries and that is to try and store food that you cook and then you have to recook it and so forth. And I understand that there's about 60% of the food that's discarded because of not having any refrigeration. So we're we're putting that in there. We're just waiting for the logistics and so forth and how to get this all to work. The spring water replaces the need of a pipeline and an aqueduct, a canal, or mobile water tanks. It purifies dirty water, water of high mineral content, or draws water from the air. So these are technologies and inventions and things like this that over the years have come to the fore that are commercially viable to purchase. The Zeroville uses a combination of electric two-wheel, electric three-wheel motorcycles for personal mobility or for carrying crops to the market and major transport hubs. Electric vehicles use batteries that are charged by solar power. Batteries from the lithium-ion batteries that are hot are not toxic or harmful to the environment. Zeroville has a zero emissions carbon environment. Satellite classes is something that we're just in the throes of communicating with Elon Musk's Starlink for the online learning for secure internet. And we're also sitting here and discussing right now with some of my other partners about the tablets for the children for online learning. Lessons to be beamed with two-way interaction are stored in servers for repeated use. WLAN serves each Zeroville. So some of this idea came up with a number of Rotarians in that the First Ladies of Africa Foundation gets started back when they were trying to raise funds for research and development for Ebola and for the AIDS. And that back, I think, 17 of the 54 African countries, the First Ladies of those 17 countries formed this. And so we've been just in casual conversation with the First Ladies of a number of these countries there for them to be the person that can maybe have a discussion with the first ministers of the country to see if we could get interest-free repayable loans from the government, of which we think about 37 months we would be able to repay the money for the capital costs for the zero villages. And then there would be income being raised on a continual basis from the sale of the produce and that type of thing. Rotary and Lions clubs in Ghana, that's who we've been talking with for the last, 2 or 3 months right now. The biggest problem we're going to have is which village is going to get electricity. There's more than 1,270 villages in Ghana that don't have electricity. We're doing the same thing in Nigeria, where I'll be living half of the year. And in January, I'll be spending about 3 weeks in Uganda, where we're talking about housing, we're talking about hospital, Zeroville, and an oil refinery there. Some of the partners that we have are Africans that have been in UK, Canada, and the United States in the oil and gas industry. And I've been blessed for them to listen to me to start a foundation so that we can start to help and support like Deshina is doing with funding and finance and so forth. The organic crops in that will be having greenhouses. Will, as we say, guarantee us a constant supply of water. We have desalination systems in that can desalinate the water that we would get down further down that's hot and salty, and we can harvest some of that heat there for cooling and for heating, and also use the use the fuel or the extra water in that for irrigation to grow the food. Now there is a system there where you can grow food in greenhouses, and the transpiration of the leaves captured on a cold wall will produce drinking water. And this is Mother Nature's way of taking brackish water and using it to grow food, and then take that, what we might call a fog or that there, and capture it on a cold wall and get drinking water. I'm excited about this for the reason that I've been in Africa so long, and I get so many calls, people wanting me to build an orphanage for people, send money. My brother died, they can't bury him, and all of these kinds of things. And it's very disheartening when we live in abundance here, and we've got such beautiful people there that have been oppressed and kept poor just because of the colonial system of doing business. That's coming to an end, and I think the time is right for us all to come back home to our home places there and help our brothers and sisters, our cousins, and the like to prosper. I could go on forever, but I'm sure my time must be up. And if there's any questions I can answer, I will. Or Viola can give you my email address, and we can communicate that way. Thank you, Viola.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. I appreciate that. Stick around in studio. We have more fabulous individuals coming on to have a conversation about their projects, their businesses, and their services. And, this is just a really great opportunity. Who knew that creating smart villages, we hear about them. We see some of them get built halfway, and then there's a bridge that needs to be crossed. There's a gap in financing. And I just love the innovative solution that Mr. Cameron was talking about working directly with the first ladies of the continent in order to be able to provide loans to them at really low rates in order to get this work done. So this is marvelous. This is something that, makes me smile when we think about how do we build the Africa we deserve? How do we be solution focused? And how do we run good, ethical businesses? Next up to this screen, we have in studio with us today, Dr. Schaefer. Dr. Schaefer is doing an amazing amount of work throughout the continent of Africa. I'm going to bring him on screen. Here we are. He has a presentation that he is going to share today. You have your presentation ready? It'll probably take he'll get his slides together and get his presentation ready. Once it's ready, we can begin. But I want the audience to know, Dr. Schaefer, who are you? Why do you do this work? Where did it start from? What's your hope, to change the world? Because you got your hand in just about everything. And let's hear about the countries that you're currently working in. So who are you?
All right. So I'm Dr. Lawrence Schaefer. I am a professor at Bowie State University in Maryland. I teach aquaponics through the botany classes and the biology classes. I built the aquaponics system in the rooftop greenhouse. If you don't know what aquaponics is, it's a mixture of aquaculture and hydroponics. Basically, we take fish in really large fish tanks, process the fish waste biologically, and then produce a liquid nutrient that goes out to all the plants that are growing in no soil with no chemicals. And then the water goes right back to the fish. So it's a closed loop recirculating system. And I'm teaching that in the university. I am a farmer. I grew up as a farmer in Iowa on about 500 acres in a multi-generational family farm. And let's see, we are establishing operations in Burkina Faso, in Guyana, South America. After Burkina Faso on the continent, we're going to be going to Cameroon, Chad, and Gabon. I know people say we're crazy for going to some of these countries that are not necessarily the most stable. But let me find the slide. So anyway, that's what we're doing is agriculture, and aquaponics seems to be the best answer that we've come up with. Mm-hmm. A lot of people talk about climate resilient technology for agriculture, but we like to use the term climate proof. The only way you could produce food with the climate change that's going on, East Africa's got it bad. They've had drought after drought after drought. They've had the locusts. They've had, you name it, they've had it. And so here we go. Dozy.
And Bowie State University, help my memory, is it an HBCU?
It is.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about HBCU for those here who may not know what an HBCU is. I use a lot of acronyms because I'm very old and that's what sticks in my head. But let's talk about historically Black colleges and universities and its potential connection to the continent and the diaspora here.
So many of my students are actually from Africa. You'd be amazed. In my travels to Cameroon, I got adopted by the Dibambari tribe, and they made me a notable, if you call it that. And so I've been adopted by the tribe, which gives me recognition by authorities in a lot of African countries, except for Rwanda, because of the devastation that happened there. They don't recognize the tribal entities. But going across the continent, I think I've traveled in 6 different countries now, mostly West Africa, and beginning these conversations to establish the right relationships. Because doing business in Africa is more about relationships than it is actually transactional. To get your foot in the ground to build that right relationship. And insurances help with transition in governments, but really the best insurance that I've found is doing the deal with the local tribal leaders and the local people, because their transition and their instability is not really affected by the political instability that happens with the country leaders and things like that occurs when they have elections. So if you establish the right relationship with the tribal leaders, usually you're protected from a lot of that stuff, because a lot of things we do is private sector to private sector. Our financing comes from the U.S. EXIM Bank, and the U.S. EXIM Bank gives us a guarantee, and then the American Trade and Finance Organization monetizes that guarantee in the form of a loan to the private company in Africa. The private company in Africa that we're working with has to be credible. It has to be able to produce 3 years of audited financials, just so people understand the requirements and how transactions are done to get things financed. Burkina Faso is about a 10,000 square foot greenhouse. It'll produce about 50,000 pounds of food a year. And that's about a $10 million package. We're going to build it in the U.S. We're also going to provide a cold storage transport solution along with that growing system for their needs there, because you have to incorporate cold storage and cold storage transport to eliminate post-harvest loss anywhere in Africa where you're producing food, unless you're going to be doing volume processing to process it to make it into another product that doesn't need refrigeration. But most products, to get them to market, you have to have refrigeration. People ask, well, what do you grow? Well, what we do is we tell people, we teach you how to grow. We don't tell you what to grow. But in the process of developing these opportunities and these things, we do a market analysis. And what we do is we look at what the country is currently importing, because so many countries import a lot of food. And even island states and things like that import a lot of food. So if we could target a lot of the things that the country is currently importing, number one, we know we got a market for what we're producing.
Right.
That's just straight out. And we know what the price point is because what they're paying for it. And so what we do is we empower the local people with the right technology to be able to produce that food locally. Now it's saving the government money. Imagine that. It's saving the government money so they don't have to buy the food to import it into the country. So now your agriculture industry is not subsidized. Now, if the government wants to redirect that money to the farmers, that would be awesome. Right. But outside of that, just as a purely for-profit endeavor to empower the local farmers with the EXIM financing, it's a 10-year loan, 3%. The other gentleman talked about 5%, but governments can do things a little lower. And so our ROI projections are about 7 to 8 years. So the 10-year ROI for us is an easy uplift. Where we want to do this is all over the world. But then there's another thing. Should I do my slide now too?
You should do your slides. And I just want you to know, since you don't know, I bought a new house here in Maryland, and it has over 9,000 square feet of land. And you and your students need to come on here and grow me some food so I can stop going to the grocery store. Okay. So that's going to happen eventually. But I want the world to know that, the work that you're doing is honorable and is successful and it's producing results. And this is just an opportunity for those in the listening audience to pay attention, to look, and to develop partnerships, because this is a real opportunity. So I'm going to remove myself from screen. Your screen is going to come up here, and I'm in studio.
And it is, here we go. Open. So there's a second one down there. All right. So sustainable agriculture. Let's talk about it. It won't play, does it? Does it play like a slideshow?
I'm back. So in order for it to, you would have to click your buttons to move. But if it has audio, that's a different setup. That it would require a different setup for audio.
Okay, so it doesn't play as a slideshow. Okay, anyway, so this is supposed to play as a slideshow, so the corner squares come in separate. So the beginnings in agriculture, when we talk about subsistence agriculture in Africa and other developing countries, a lot of times they're doing it in the field by hand with hoes, with shovels, with plows. My ancestors, we began with the horses in the upper left, and then you see the development of industrial agriculture in the other slides. The problem with industrial agriculture, number one, the water usage, number two, the fossil fuel usage, number three, the high cost of overhead and the maintenance of all that equipment. My nose wants to sneeze. Okay. So we want to eliminate all those downsides of industrial agriculture. So many African countries tell me, oh, we have the most arid soil, most fertile soil. Come, we can grow anything. Well, that's because you've never done industrial agriculture. Because as soon as you do industrial agriculture, then you will be a slave to the fertilizer industry. And that's the last thing you want to do, especially the heavy chemical fertilizers. Now, there is a move afoot to be able to generate organic fertilizers or do crop rotations. That does help, but you still need to fertilize the soil after you harvest the crops. So that's the last thing you want to do is industrial agriculture. Traditional agriculture challenges, like we talked about, the overhead, dependence on chemical, dependent on weather, climate change, all that, your exposure, your vulnerabilities to destructive animals, insects, pollen, microorganisms, those kinds of things, time of year, time of day limitations, how many crop harvests per year, and then the water usage. So how does agriculture affect everything else? We talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. I believe agriculture is directly and indirectly related to every single sustainability goal. Even when we talk about conflict in countries, people are hungry. People need jobs. They don't get a job, they get $25 in a cell phone, they get a gun, and they're motivated to go shoot up something. It's just not a pretty picture, and it's been going on for way too long. And it's unfortunate that there hasn't been sustainable solutions being presented before now. And it's just really frustrating to watch it, see it happen. But now we're here, and now we're trying to make a difference, and we're on a mission to change the world. So what does this look like? Indoors. So if we do a greenhouse, we're limited on vertical space. Maybe we can't go as high as what this picture shows. If we do a warehouse, we can do a 24-foot high ceiling height. We can do a minimal profitability for us for an indoor production system with the fish and the plants. It's about 10,000 square feet. That produces about 50,000 pounds of food a year, and that produces about 10 jobs. But then if you talk about scalability, you crank that up. Every 10,000 square foot unit is an individual component. We do 10 of those. That's a 100,000 square foot facility. That produces about 500,000 pounds of food a year. That produces about $7 million of profit a year. And we have the cold storage unit and cold storage transport unit. It's a 40-foot shipping container that's solar powered, battery backup, and it's a sea-bearing container that can go on ships for exportation into other countries. And the fish side of things, we can do 2,000-gallon fish tanks is the average that we like to do. We don't like to do much larger than that. Freshwater fish is your limitation, any freshwater fish. I categorize fish in two categories, the school-based fish and non-school-based fish. School-based fish you could pack in very dense densities when you talk about stocking densities in these tanks. About a gallon of water per fish when you talk about these fish. Usually school-based fish are omnivores or herbivores, so the protein amount in the fish food can be lowered a little bit. But when you talk about non-school-based fish, the bigger fish, you're talking about a cubic foot of water possibly for fish, and the flow rate in the water has to be much faster. So the design of your fish tanks has to be quite a bit different, like salmon, sturgeon, even sea bass, not sea bass, but hybrid bass, trout. Sometimes you can get away with packing them a little tighter. Catfish, obviously, you can get away with packing them tighter. But larger ones like the salmon, which is highly desirable, needs a different design, a different flow rate, a different environment for the fish. But anyway, we connect it all together with the plants. And so as you can see with the rack and stack systems, some plants can grow tightly together, like your leafy greens, your herbs, your microgreens, about 2 foot apart. Some microgreens and things like that are a little lower. LED lights under each rack. You don't need outside light. We can simulate the outside light with the LED spectrum. Predictable growth throughout the year. There's no seasonality at all. Outside of the leafy greens, the microgreens, the herbs, we can grow any kind of plant. Any plant you want to grow. In the university, we played around with grapes, blueberries, blackberries, kiwi, fig. We did papaya in larger tubs. They get about 4 or 5 feet high. They develop fruit. We can do rice, wheat. There's a big issue now because of the Ukraine situation. Rice and wheat, they grow about 1 meter high. Imagine how many racks that you could do on a 24-foot high ceiling height. You could probably get away with 3 racks. Watermelon, cantaloupe, any of the larger fruit. You want to do tea. You want to do cocoa, cacao. We can do cacao. Normally takes about 4 to 5 years to grow a cacao bush to get it to grow seed. I think we're pushing like 18 months on those to get those to crank out. Things like coffee beans and things like that. They talk about the quality of the bean, or especially with grapes, the quality of the grape, right when it gets to harvest. If you have a drought during the last cycle of that growth of that grape, it condenses and it makes the fruit sweeter, and that's really desirable by winemakers. We can simulate the environment completely in these indoor systems. So let's talk about non-human consumable foods, fodder, growing food for livestock. How many places are the livestock are dying because of the drought situation? East Africa's got it bad. I lost count now how many herds of cattle I've seen die, and the conflict that's happening because of the fight over land rights. When you have the pastoralists pushing their herds to find places to graze, well, there's no need to graze, because what we want to do is we want to be able to have the cattle indoors, both dairy. If you want to do pork, some nations are more Muslim, so they're not going to do pork. But dairy, beef, chickens, any of those things you can do indoors, and you can feed them the fodder. And fodder, as how they are on the shelf there, about 7 days, they grow about 7 to 8 inches high. And it's just a constant generation system. We can scale these systems depending on how big the herd is for whatever livestock you want to raise. We can scale these up big or small to fit the need. We can customize the seed blend based on the breed of the animal. And then having the livestock indoors, we want to have a pit underneath that operation so we can collect all the waste. And then we can harvest the gases off that waste to help power the facility. And the remaining waste is then processed into a organic fertilizer that we could sell to the industry. So commercial fish production, we talked about it a little bit. It's freshwater fish. These are not saltwater systems. You could push like 1,000 or 2,000 fish in each tank. We customize the seed, the feed for the fish. We do our own feed. We don't use any corn, soybeans, chicken byproducts, any unnatural stuff, any not good quality. I'll say it that nicely. Not good quality fish food. We're not using the commercially viable fish food that's out there right now, because it doesn't produce quality fish, but it doesn't produce quality nutrients that the plants need as well as what the fish need, because in a closed loop system, the only injector you have is the fish food. And then fruits and vegetables. What do you want to grow? Anything you want to grow. Like I talked about, the variety of things that you could possibly grow is just crazy. So 5 hectares of food on 1 hectare of land, 10% of the water traditionally used, no pesticides, no herbicides, no chemicals at all, multiple harvests every year, and then repay financing within a few years. The universities, this won't scroll, but there are a number of universities that are doing aquaponics across the whole world, and this is me. So let me go to another presentation. Can we do the second one? There we go. This is what we proposed in Guyana, South America. But we can do this in any country. So these are some of the technologies. A lot of countries now are coming around to industrial hemp. Hemp is very easily, we can do that outdoors. We're not worried about the chemical usage on hemp, but it's weed itself. It's not cannabis, so we're straight about that. And then let's talk about the desire for a lot of countries to go organic, right? Organic eggs, organic chickens, free-range chickens, the mobile chicken coops to allow the chickens to roost at night so you can collect the eggs. Then we talked about some of the dairy. These are Holsteins. We can bring Jerseys or Holsteins from the U.S. over to a country, establish a large dairy operation, implement the turnstile systems to do the dairy so that you have organic dairy production. It's very easy to do. Hydroponic fodder is what we produce to feed all of the livestock. Here is a chart to show you scalability on the fodder, the size of the system depending on the type of livestock and how big your livestock herd is, so that you can see that it feeds just about every livestock that you have there. So then the beef, instead of the Brahma bulls and some of the other breeds, mixed breeds and things like that, quality of beef is really important for marketability. So we talk about bringing Black Angus or any other breed that would be suitable for the environment, depending on the country. And we could do Black Angus indoors with some fans to keep it fairly cool with the wall chillers, things like that. Bring the herd over from the U.S., do artificial insemination for diversity of the breed, and then feed them the fodder system. Shrimp farming. Imagine a shrimp farm in a shipping container. Shrimp farm in a box. So usually entry into a new country is about 100 containers. Water and electricity to get started inside of a large warehouse. You can produce 1.6 metric tons per year per container. Imagine that. So that's 100 containers, 1.6 metric tons per container. Do the math. Oyster breeding. Morgan State University does the oyster breeding program. We're partnering with them. We're partnering with an oyster producer on the eastern shore of Maryland, replicating his whole operation from the algae grow to feed the larvae, all the way to the grow out, all the way to the cages for implementation in other countries. And you need brackish water where rivers meet oceans. And so many African countries, of course, not the landlocked countries, but other African countries that meet the ocean have the rivers that meet the oceans, and it's a perfect place. So we talked about aquaponics. Here's the numbers: 100,000 square foot, 50,000 pounds, 10,000 or 100,000 square foot is 500,000 pounds, 10,000 square foot, 50,000 pounds. So we talk about economies of scale. Fish food manufacturing. I mentioned the quality of fish food. We would be setting up our own fish food manufacturing facility. Then we would talk about all the organic waste. We talked about the livestock waste. Well, any other organic waste as well. We could process any organic waste and convert it to a organic fertilizer for the industry. And we do that by growing our own microbe and bacteria, basically. And the microbe we grow, then we break down that organic waste to produce biogas. And the biogas is what we use to help power facilities, help power a lot of other things. There are some other technologies that we could bring into the mix. That's it for the presentation. We have partners with solar, wind. We have partners with waste to energy. There are a lot of partners out there that could do a lot of interesting things for economic development programs in a lot of countries. We're also working with the Africa Guarantee Fund out of Benin to do another guarantee outside of XM. The USDFC is helpful if we're going to retain ownership of any operation, because they don't do transfer of ownership like the XM does. So there are many ways to look at financing things. We're going through a Dubai organization to finance U.S. operations at about a $55 million level. That'll be a 100,000 square foot facility with the beef production. So that's pretty much where we are, and that's what we're doing. Short and sweet. Thank you, Viola, for providing this platform. If anybody has any questions, you have my contact information on the last slide there, or you can get a hold of me on my website, SchaeferGlobal.com. It's SCHAEFER, SchaeferGlobal.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, either way.
Thank you so very much. And didn't I tell y'all, when someone's doing something good, you just want to say, didn't I tell y'all that we have some amazing and remarkable people here that both love the continent, that live in the continent, that want to do good for mankind, womankind, for humanity. And we have those people here today with us. And Dr. Lawrence Schaefer happens to be one of them. Hang out in studio, Dr. Schaefer, if you can. We have another and our final presenter coming on. This is the Africa we deserve. We deserve an Africa that is vibrant, that is full of life, full of opportunity, and one in which that can support its own population inside the continent and outside the continent, the diaspora as a whole. The Africa We Deserve, Taking Power Over Our Lives videocast is live. And we are taking this opportunity to showcase to the world African solutions, because it is time for us to build together. And this is what this conversation is about, is showcasing those who are doing work on the continent, from the continent, friends of Africa, diaspora that have returned home and are doing amazing and incredible work. And the next person that I'm going to bring to the screen is Queen Haynesworth. I have been following this dynamic woman from Philadelphia all the way to the shores of Senegal. And we have been on the continent at the same time, many times in different countries, and bypassed each other. But the work that she is doing, I thought today, is a really great opportunity to showcase the diaspora as a whole. This conversation we're having today is sponsored by the International Institute of Family Development and Pitch World Fast out of Algeria, on the heels of the Biden-Harris Africa Leaders Summit. On the margins, this conversation is really exposing the everyday, ordinary person who is helping to build Africa as a global partner. And we have both Americans, we have those from Switzerland, we have those from the continent of Africa that are doing great and mighty work. And it is all of us together that helps to make both the relationship between the United States and Africa to be dynamic and to be one of mutual respect and cooperation. So I want to bring to the screen here, to the studio here, Queen Haynesworth. She is like my everything, my motivational person, the person who is doing diaspora work and engagement in Senegal, making sure that her mic is unmuted. That's really important. I'm not too sure what's, if I can, let's see here. If it's on my side or your side. Queen Haynesworth, is your mic unmuted? Let's see here. It looks like we're can't unmute, guess the mic. Oh, it says your mic is not connected. How about now? Is your mic connected?
How about now?
How
Can you
about
hear me?
now? I can hear you. And just
do you remember that old commercial?
Yes, I do. It was Alicia Keys that made that song. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
We can hear
Hello,
you.
my
And
sister.
thank
How
you.
are you?
I am so well being here with you. This is just a real treat and pleasure to have you join this conversation live from the shores of Senegal. So I want you to
Yes.
take this time to tell people who you are and what you
Okay.
do.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, although this has come so quickly. For those of you that are in the listening audience, I actually just heard about you guys a half an hour ago. So we've sat through some amazing presentations and slideshows and all of that, but this ain't that. I'm just coming to you real quick. As the old preachers say, I won't be before you long, but I do appreciate you extending the invitation so that we can be here and share what we got going on. So, hello everyone. My name is Queen Hainsworth. I'm here in Dakar region, Senegal. I'm actually in an area right now called Toubab Jalal, off the coast of Senegal, about an hour and a half south of Dakar. House here, um, in which we serve the diaspora. We serve a lot of people who are actually. Okay, there we go. The name of my company is Sankofa Hospitality Management. We are a women-owned company. We are just diasporan-owned company, and we seek to be a soft landing for the Africa diaspora to actually come home. I moved here the year of return. A lot of people have, come to the continent in 2019. And what we found when we arrived here in Senegal, my business partner and I, is that there were a lot of differences between our comfort in the United States and what was provided here at Senegal. And so we wanted to make sure that we created a space that was very familiar. The standard was that we enjoyed at home. So that turned into guest houses, in which we acquired a 5-unit apartment building. We decked it out. It was fully furnished, completely American, all the way down to the cups and knives and dishes in your cupboard. We operated that for about a year before we transitioned. And now what we're doing is we are managing short-term rentals and guest houses throughout the Dakar region. We have some, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Airbnb. You can have Airbnb in a foreign country. We all the way down to staffing it and making sure that our people have the staff necessary. Your excuse me, your housing staff, your cooks, your maids, your security, your drivers, things like that. We source that all within the hospitality management company. Also, we do travel concierge. So that if there's something going on in the city, let's say if you're coming to visit me here in Dakar, the only thing you need to do is just bring your bags, and I can handle everything else, soup to nuts, from picking you up from the airport, making sure that you have all of your tours together, creating a itinerary for you so that you get the best out of your experience here in Senegal. What some people don't know is that Senegal is the gateway to Africa. Dakar is the westernmost country in the continent of Africa. So a lot of people, in order to come to Africa, you got to come through Senegal. So we want to make sure that when they come, they're comfortable and they still have the same accommodations that they would have at home. So we take care of that. I can be reached at darbyhainsworth.com. That's Darby Hainsworth, I'm sorry, at gmail.com. I'm also part of an official welcome center here for the African diaspora. It's called the African Gateway Welcome Construction to be able to present that to you all. And one of our first events we have coming up is actually going to be Unity Day. We are bringing the very first celebration of Kwanzaa to Dakar, Senegal. This has never happened before. And the event is on the 26th of December. So that's just coming up. We are working in conjunction with the Garvey Institute. We work very closely with the son of Marcus Garvey by the name of Dr. Julius Garvey. And we're creating this event in order to welcome the diaspora home. We found that a lot of people that we talk to, you know, they have a mixed bag of emotions when it comes to Africa. People have a certain idea of what Africa is. And what we're doing is bringing the everyday modern African image to the diaspora in order to welcome them to the continent. I fully believe that Africa is for Africans. I fully believe that this is my birthright to be here. And so many people that are of the diaspora, that were the children of Africa that were stolen from this place, they don't know that they're welcomed home. And so we need to create that environment in which they will feel welcomed, in which they will be able to get their feet under them in order to establish the life here. I am a community organizer for the diaspora here in Dakar. We also have family in Gambia, and I'm always interested in expanding that family to people in other places in Africa. We have some folks that are in South Africa, Rwanda. We are everywhere. Everywhere the Africa's children were taken from, there are parts of our community that are actually there getting established. So we want to create a welcome center in those spaces so that the diaspora that is coming home, they can go to one spot for all of their resources. And so that's what we're creating, a welcome center, a welcome and resource center. Viola, I believe that I was able to send you over the flyer for our event that we have coming up.
You were, and unfortunately, that flyer is not compatible with this system in order to showcase.
Okay.
What I will do, as the team will broadcast this, they will tag you. They will add the flyer to it.
Okay.
And then you can share this conversation that we're having across your network so that people can actually see your presentation and your other colleagues that are here today, their presentations, because they are doing change work just like you. Everyone who is doing change work, some do it for profit, some do it as a nonprofit, but all are working in order to create the Africa we deserve. And so, Queen Haynesworth, thank you for the work that you're doing. I truly appreciate your sisterhood.
Thank you.
And your ability to bring space and peace and healing and navigation to us when we actually land on the continent.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, sister, from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. Is there anything that is burning that you want the listening audience to know that they don't know?
I don't know how much of your listening audience have actually been to Africa. I know that when I first came here, first of all, we often say Africa as if it's not 54 countries. So I think that that's one thing that I would love for my audience to know, is that Africa is not one place. It's millions of people. It is millions of a type of people. And when the people are coming here, I just want to invite you to abandon all of your presets. The things that you think what you think would happen in the United States is not what happens here in any of the countries. And I think that when you come here, you have to have a spirit of cooperation. You need to have a spirit of patience about you. And you need to be able to come to the table with your whole heart and know that you are collaborating. You are walking into someone else. It's not about you, about us globally. When we are
So the network service for Queen Haynesworth is
together African, our continental African brothers. This is where we're all able to grow.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. The connection is slow. It's something that we often talk about here when we are live, and we are live now on
Africa
We deserve. And so while I'm sitting here in the United States, sometimes we have connection issues, but it quickly comes back up. But throughout the continent, one of the things that we are looking for a business standpoint to add value to, is all the presenters talked about, energy happens to be one of those, sources, energy and telecommunications, the way that we are communicating so that we can be a better global partner. So as the United States comes together with all 54 African presidents, minus a few, I think 49 will be in attendance. This is the opportunity that we have before us, because this is a pre-runner to that conversation. And so Queen Haynesworth, if you had a chance to advise or say something both to your Senegalese president, to Macky Sall, President Macky Sall, his honorable President Macky Sall, and to our honorable President Joe Biden. He's bringing together all the nations for mutual cooperation, mutual respect, bridge building for trade, investment, and development. What would be the advice that you would give to both presidents, because you're a woman of both lands, for them to think about building the Africa we deserve?
Yes. In building the Africa that we deserve, I'm going to use an old African proverb. To go fast, you can go alone. But to go far, we need to go together. And I thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Queen Haynesworth, for being here with us today. Stay in studio if you can. We are at the end of our conversation today, of our pitch session. We had remarkable individuals come on today. We had Duncan Cameron from Cameron Global Africa come on. We had Anisina Adeswasu come on from Nigeria, who is doing huge and amazing things both throughout the continent. We had Queen Haynesworth come on from Senegal, Dr. Lawrence Schaefer from Schaefer Global, who is doing work throughout the continent in agriculture. I want to take this time to bring Pitch Real Fast to the conversation. Shiraz, we could not have done this work without our partnership, our mutual cooperation. Shiraz, feel free to come on and say your thoughts about the significance of today's conversation.
I think, thank you so much, Viola, and thank you for all. I think in any case, the whole point of today's session, when we talked about it with Viola, was really to showcase not only the opportunities, but the strength and the treasures that we have on the continent, and also in the US for the continent. So really showcasing everything that can be done, how we are all so resourceful. We know what are the challenges. We know there are solutions, and really bringing to life and bringing to light all these amazing initiatives, amazing work that is done. And again, it is through, we always say it whenever we talk with Viola, that it's about finding the right partners. It's not about duplicating, but really cooperating. It's not only about competition, but really collaboration. And I think this is really what we want to showcase. And if we can provide a platform of the sort that people can really showcase what they're doing and getting their message out there, I think this is also a way for us to contribute in one of the ways that we're trying to contribute to the continent and to this US-Africa relationship as well.
Well, thank you so much, Shiraz, and I appreciate your partnership in doing this work. And so the invitation is out to all of our presenters today. If you have friends and or colleagues that are doing amazing work, we do give away a few slots for individuals to come and showcase their work here on network. Because we are broadcasted live. So the mistakes are real, the laughter is real, the energy, the vibe is here, and we are serious about it. So connect with both Shiraz and myself for individuals who are doing amazing work that needs to be highlighted. And we look forward to bringing more people from the continent, those who care about the continent, and those who are in the diaspora together both in this platform and others, in order to create and showcase the solutions. Let's build together. So thank you, everybody, for today's show. We truly appreciate you. Stay tuned to all of the events that we have upcoming. We have 2 live events happening in Washington, D.C. On the margins of the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, Measure of Leadership, Invest in Zimbabwe. And then we have the Ambassadors Exchange happening. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay in studio.